Warning, this episode contains mild to heavy explicit spoilers. Listen at your own risk.
Reviews, discussions, and theories about films in horror, sci-fi, and genre. This is The Horror Deconstruction. Like, share, and subscribe to hear more.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's The Horror Deconstruction. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, any place that you want to. You can find us. So this is kind of a special episode that we're doing today. My guest didn't give me his name before we started recording. So, guest, can you say what your name is?
Yeah, my name is Deckard.
Deckard, the very famous
Yes.
Deckard. So we're doing something different today. We're not necessarily focusing on horror, although if you're a person that works for Disney, it might be horror for you in a sense, looking at the box office numbers. But today we're talking about the film Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and we're also doing a post-mortem on the adventures of the titular character Indiana Jones, created by George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, and who was the other guy that originally came up with Indiana Jones? It was the third guy, right?
It was Kaufman, Philip Kaufman.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Postmortem is a great way to describe it.
Especially if you've seen that new. Did you see that new Twitter video that came out with Harrison Ford thanking his fans?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I saw that.
it's,
You know exactly what that was. He's trying to get people to go to the theater.
I got to tell you this.
Because he's like...
When I watched that video and it's like slowly closing up on his eyes scared me more than even when the German guys melted into skeletons in the original film. I was like, yo, this guy's
They
eyes
need to de-age his eyes for that fucking video, bro. Like, what the fuck? I don't know. It's weird.
So
He looks like so old, bro.
that's what happens, bro. It's gonna happen to us one day. But okay, so
I know.
I'm just gonna read the IMDb line. Archaeologist Indiana Jones races against time to retrieve a legendary artifact that can change the course of history. It kind of sounds like every other Indiana Jones film. So,
Yep.
Deckard, can you give us a small a recap, or what this movie is actually about, besides that sort of general BS log line?
It's gonna be difficult, man. The movie is pretty much about Indiana Jones in his twilight years, when he is no longer the hero that we all grew up watching. He's sort of like he's done for. He's retiring. He's alone. He's very depressed in a lot of ways, and it's halfway through the film, not halfway through the film, at the beginning of the film, his goddaughter comes into his life and in a way kind of like challenges him to go into one final adventure. And then from there, a lot of shit happens that doesn't really matter. And it's just, it's so hard to explain because I read another synopsis and it told a completely different story.
It was
than
funny
what the actual movie was.
as you were explaining it, and you
go ahead.
said Twilight. I was like, is there a word after Twilight for his character? Like,
I know
it's,
that might be.
it might be
too
the
early
witching
for it.
hour.
Yeah. The witching hour. That's
So Indiana Jones is a film that is near and dear to Deckard, right? That Deckard, like, honestly, coming up with a film to just give a little idea of how we see film. Like, I've been doing this show for a while. I got to be honest, like, I enjoyed films and I loved films when I was very young, but I did not appreciate how films were told and what the science that was behind films until maybe I was maybe in the early 2000s. That's when I started actually, going into seeing international films and actually seeing what was like going on to tell a story. And then I started appreciating everything. So I missed out on a lot of very important films. Like, a lot of people that know me personally, I didn't see The Exorcist until a long time after. And then when I saw it, I was like, wow. So in a way that I feel good about seeing certain films nowadays, because now I can see it, appreciate it, as opposed to seeing it as a kid and having some sort of warped view of it. Did you have that sort of, what kind of growing up did you have? Because I know you're a very dedicated cineast, as they say. When did you realize, film,
It was early on, and the funny thing is, Indiana Jones was like one of the first films that got me super interested.
I can understand,
in movies. Just a quick recap of like my sort of history with Indiana Jones. My dad, obviously, my parents were the ones who kind of introduced me to film,
Mm-hmm.
especially my dad. He loved Raiders of the Lost Ark. I think he went to see it in theaters. I was too young.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the Temple of Doom came out in theaters, he took the whole family to see it. And so that was I think that was the first movie I've ever went to see in
Wow,
theaters.
Temple of Doom in the theaters must have been awesome.
Temple of Doom. I cried halfway through the movie. Me and my
You were
sister
so
cried.
scared.
So I didn't actually necessarily watch the entire film because it was too much.
Right, of course.
But after the film came out, we rushed to our local video store to pick up a copy of it. That was one of the first videos that we actually purchased that was like a packaged video, you know what I mean? Raiders of the Lost Ark, we had recorded from like HBO before. I think it was at the same time or a little bit before, and so I was watching that already, as a kid, and my dad was watching it, and so those two films became like staple in our household of like watching. And obviously when Last Crusade came out, we went to theater to watch it and we loved it. And so that's my history. It's very early on, and that's one of the earliest films that I remember being influenced by were the Indiana Jones films.
And was it one of those experiences where you were like, oh, I've got to make movies after this, or you just saw more you just didn't?
I think they were more
Paul Verhoeven movies?
No, they were more like the Indiana Jones films. They didn't like push me to filmmaking. It was other films, but these were just more escapist stuff that I would just
it was the wonder of it.
The wonder, and then I would just like play. I would act these movies out when I wasn't watching them. You know what I mean? So that's what they were for me. They weren't really my introduction to like I wanted to be a filmmaker. There were a couple other films that at the same time did that, but it's very close to my heart, especially the second one.
But certainly you're the type of guy that revisited these films after knowing when you got into film and you actually started directing and doing stuff like that you were able to pick them apart but still enjoy them, because there's a lot of films nowadays that do come out and you're like, if it's like green screen heavy, like, oh my god, I guess you can go on with this move, the Dial of Destiny. You can kind of go, oh, I see where that's going on, because I had a couple issues with that. But in those type of earlier films that were close to using as practical effects as possible, and especially your family taking you to this type of film, because I remember my family, growing up, they took me to films to see Platoon and stuff like that.
Right.
And like, my father was a Vietnam vet, was laughing through it because he thought it was the biggest bogus movie of all time.
Really? You know what's crazy about that? Oliver Stone was like, my film was the most accurate, and he was like shitting on all these other Vietnam films. But that's crazy to hear that.
Yeah, my dad was laughing through the movie. So nowadays I would like, I want to watch like any war movie with him just to set him off, we saw that. I remember seeing RoboCop as a kid, and my story, because you have to tell your story because it's the greatest story of all time. But my situation where I freaked out is when RoboCop, when the acid falls on the guy, and he's melting. And I thought I was going to lose my mind in the theaters because I was so frightened. I was so scared seeing that visual. I couldn't believe they took me to see that movie, but it was still a great movie. It was great. Like, it was a horror movie to me. But we have to recount your alien story because it might be the funniest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, it was funny because I saw RoboCop. I didn't get to see it in theater. I saw it on video. I remember my dad rented it, and I had the same reaction. But it's like I watched it, I'm sure, like just like you did, watch the whole thing, but it's just like shit freaked me the fuck out, especially that scene. But I'm like, this is so violent, even back then, bro.
Of course, yeah.
It's crazy. But like Aliens, my mother took me and my sister to see Aliens. I sat through the entire film, stone faced, just watching this. It's crazy that I wasn't scared of anything about the film up until that point when Bishop gets impaled by the Queen Alien's tail at the end. It's a jump scare type of moment.
And it's a jump scare in slow motion. That's the funny part.
It's a jump scare in slow motion. You think the movie's over, so I'm 6 years old, so I'm like, this movie's over. You know what I mean? And it fucking scared that scared me, and then just the visual of what was happening. Like this guy's just like puking up this white liquid.
Yeah, because it's not what you expect, right?
No.
Had you seen Alien 1 before you saw that, or?
No. I saw Aliens
so it must have been a total shock to be like, why is this guy bleeding white?
Yeah, like I didn't know. I think at that time I was aware that he was an android because of the beginning of the movie. They explained it. You know what I mean? But I just didn't. I didn't like people throwing up in like real life or like in movies. Like that was
Of
one
course,
of my
yeah.
pet peeves as a kid, and so it just freaked me the fuck out. So I just panicked, ran out of the theater. My mother had to come chase me into the lobby, and then my sister
That's so
stayed
funny.
watching the movie. My sister told me like I just stayed and watched the rest of the movie. So I never saw like Ripley
That's
fight
great.
the alien, the Queen Alien, up
Oh,
until
yeah.
later,
Oh,
years
well.
later when I saw it again in theaters. But anyway,
Of course. Anyway,
that's my story. That's
a
story.
fabulous story. I always laugh at that. We've actually told that story before on our Aliens review like years and years ago. But so Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So right before we actually get into this, we'll talk about the older films after we talk about this film itself. So concerning this film itself, it took many years to get to it because obviously we saw 15 years ago. I didn't realize that long ago. Crystal Skull, which caught a lot of derision and a lot of hatred because they thought it was so terrible because it was, I guess, CG effects laden, and it actually coined the phrase nuking the fridge because Indiana survives a nuclear fallout by getting inside of a lead-lined fridge, correct? There was CGI gophers. There was Shia LaBeouf being like Tarzan. Shia LaBeouf, he was swinging like Tarzan with monkeys, cartoon monkeys. Indiana Jones wasn't fighting Nazis in that one. He was fighting Russians in that film. I don't know what else was kind of bothersome with that film. People were having issues, and I didn't really hear this much. Yeah, I didn't hear that much of an issue with aliens, honestly, because then that becomes
that came
like
later.
Yeah, I guess so.
That came later. To be honest, just throw this in there real quick. Like when I remember watching, I saw this movie twice in theaters. Okay, I was a little bit let down, but I don't remember the backlash being that bad until years later. I remember at the time people were like, "Okay, it was all right," and even I thought that.
Right.
So
when I saw it,
I don't get the backlash.
Yeah, when I saw it, I thought I was like, all right. I mean, there was nothing special to me when I saw it. It certainly wasn't like in Temple of Doom. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like,
right.
And it certainly wasn't Raiders of the Lost Ark. Temple of Doom is my favorite.
Yeah.
Even though people apparently hate that movie now a lot. And I'm like, what's going on here?
That's another thing.
I don't get that. I don't understand.
At the time, the movie was loved at the time when it came out. So I don't get this.
So 15 years after that, I think Spielberg was lined up to actually direct Dial of Destiny. And for some reason, he just didn't end up doing it. They had an idea with it was Indy and Marion having a giant action film, basically. And lo and behold, that idea didn't happen, and they brought in James Mangold. So James Mangold is known for such films as...
Logan?
That's up to you to tell you, Deckard.
Logan, Ford versus
Ferrari,
Ferrari, Copland. I mean, he's done a lot of great films.
Walk the Line. One funny thing about Copland I heard is that when this is a rumor I read in the newspaper, that during Copland, like when Stallone was walking around in the parks, like people would walk up to him asking for autographs, and he would say, "Get these peasants away from me." I remember reading that and laughing my ass off. But back to James Mangold.
That I could believe that 100%. I could believe that 100%.
And right now, as we speak, he's complaining about there being a movie called Deadpool 3, which has Logan, because obviously he made the Logan movie of all Logan films. And he feels it's not right for them to make a movie like that. Meanwhile, he's here making an Indiana Jones movie, which might be...
and completely destroying the original trilogy, everything. But
oh, yeah. So basically, I saw... the Last Crusade. I had never seen Last Crusade. I saw pieces of it, really. And I finally saw it. And it's not even a movie that you said is the best, right? But my feelings of it, I was like, holy... Like, when I saw that, I realized how much there was a depth difference between the original trilogy and the last two films. And then I also realized what people that... Like, you know how you and I actually... have mutual respect for the Last Jedi? The Last
Jedi, yeah.
I enjoyed it because it was different. You enjoyed it, you said. Yep. People hated how Luke Skywalker was in that film. So now I understand why people would be like, see, I've just seen this movie and Indiana's cranky and Dial of Destiny, and then people seeing Luke Skywalker get mad because they're like all offended by it, and I was like, oh my god, now I get... It's like he pulled a Ryan Johnson on this film, but made every horrible choice instead. And like,
Right.
because I'm watching Dial of Destiny, like I'm like, oh, he's really pissed off. But then when I watch Crusade, I'm like, oh, like, Indiana's like, he's a little bitter. He's not curmudgeonly. You know what I mean? He's like,
But he's always been sort of like a reluctant character. You know what I mean? Like,
right,
in certain senses, like he kind of doesn't want to do certain things. Like he's not like he loves what he does, but then when he gets into these situations where he has to like it's like fight for his life, and he
he's
kind
only
of
bitter.
doesn't
Right.
want to do it. I didn't feel that much. Yeah, I didn't feel that much in Crystal Skull. I felt like it was the tone was the
Right.
same as the other films as far as like his character. Can I just say something about that real quick?
Sure,
Um,
absolutely.
the fact that James Mangold, went for like the more serious tone like he did with. I mean, it's not as serious as like Logan. It still has that like whimsy about
No,
it.
it's not right.
But
There's lightheartedness to it.
but the fact that he kind of went down that road, even Spielberg when he like addressed Sean Connery's death and Brody, he kind of like it still had a little bit of like happiness to it. Like they cut to a photo
Right.
of like, and so I think that's the difference here is that Spielberg he dealt with like sad moments, but still having it be a little bit more upbeat. He didn't go like dour, which is kind of like what Mangold kind of did in a certain way. So that's the difference, and I feel like it worked better the way Spielberg did it.
Spielberg has a better way of handling, let's say, besides Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan, where they're just like, oh, they're just like crushing you, or even, what was the movie about the
Amistad?
PLA? Yeah. Oh, which one?
I said Amistad, but
No,
what was-
no, no.
Oh,
the one
Munich,
about the
Munich.
Munich, right? So there's a
Yeah.
couple of where Spielberg will crush you with what happens in those films, but he's able to still, when he wants to, do a little bit more flight of fancy
Right.
sort of film. With Crystal Skull, it was still something where the character, you can feel appreciated their time with his dad or Brody.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like you were saying, it was a little bit more lighthearted. It was a little bit more. I appreciated the time I had with them, as opposed to this one. It was like, I should have saved I
Yeah.
should have stopped them from going to the war, shit like that. And you're just like, oh my god, that's depressing.
is.
And seeing like Indy all beaten up, and I think the film is supposed to like lead into us being, oh yay, by the end Indy's happy again. But I never felt that at all.
Neither
By
did
the
I.
film, I was like, he's still miserable. Even though he gets with Marion at the end, I was like, no, he's still miserable. And I guess they try to lighten it up by him grabbing his hat. We jumped way ahead
Yeah.
to the end. We grabs his hat out of the fire escape, and you see that the cute cartoonish iris out of his hands taking the hat, so it can, Indy's still adventurous. I still was like, no, that felt like tacked on. That didn't feel like happy at all. It just felt miserable. So the whole point of this film, and the whole point of Dial of Destiny's, I guess, MacGuffin is there's a device called the Dial of Destiny, which if you rejigger it in certain ways, you can find pathways into the past. But we don't know that yet. At the beginning of the film, we're dealing with Indy. He's already tired at work. He's teaching in college in New York City. I didn't know it was New York City until they said it was New York City.
It's supposed to
sort
be
of
Hunter
like,
College. He's teaching in Hunter College.
right? And I didn't know it was college until they said, "Hey, we're in New York City." I was like, none of this looks like New York, but also it's New York in the late '60s,
Right.
and this is there's like hippie kids living next to Indy, and he's all mad and upset that they're playing their music loud because I think they were celebrating that man landed on the moon. Is that
Right.
what it was?
1969. Yeah.
And so there's a whole bunch of ticker tape parades and stuff like that. So we're getting the idea of this big New York City adventure that he's on, or not adventure, but this lifestyle he's living, bored out of his mind
Right.
and miserable.
Oh, his name is
And
Archimedes.
so then we're
Archimedes is his name.
Archimedes, that's right. We'll have to say Machiavelli like an idiot. But even before that,
Right.
let's swing back at the very beginning of this
Yes.
film, because we're jumping around with this movie. But you know what? It's fun. I like talking about this. We're treated to a very old school in the adventure at the beginning. So can you explain to us what happens at the beginning of this film with this whole train sequence?
If I can remember, bro. Nah, okay. So in the beginning of the film, it opens in. Dude, are we in? Where are we? Are we in Germany? don't know where the
I
fuck
would
we
hope
are.
so.
Okay, because all right, we open in Germany during World War II. This is showing us Indiana Jones during World War II.
So all the films
which is
took place before World War II, right? So this is like
Right
in the middle or
before.
the ending of it, I think.
right before, and I think Last Crusade was actually during because Hitler's in the
Oh,
film.
because Hitler's right. Yeah, yeah. So this
So
was
it's
near the end because the Allies were showing
right.
up to
This is
help
when
him.
I guess the bulk of the battles were happening with like the Allied forces and stuff, which is something that we haven't seen in Indiana Jones films. So this
Right.
takes place in this. It's like a castle or whatever. It's a stronghold of the Nazis, and Indiana Jones is trying to infiltrate inside the space to capture this. He's actually capturing a different item, right? It's a sphere or something, and shit ensues, and then he gets captured. And this is where we.
I think
meet
the actor is Thomas Kreischmann. I think that's like this German actor. He's been in a lot of
Yes.
great stuff. He's a very good actor. I
He is
recognize
good.
him because I was like, oh, I know who that is. That's Thomas Kreischmann. If you've seen
They always use him
the
for any German,
and
he's used.
I saw him in Dario Argento's Dracula 3D, one of the worst films in the
Oh,
history of
shit.
cinema. So, Thomas Kreischmann is great. If you've ever seen
Yes.
the clip online of, it's called Hitler Reacts, and like Hitler's like slamming his hand on a table, and he's like Fegelein, Fegelein. He plays the character Fegelein, and there's a whole internet joke about that. But Thomas Kreischmann is great, and
He was also in The Pianist with Adrian Brody,
Right.
Which is
Yeah.
he's the character at the end of the film that kind of saves Adrian Brody's character.
right. He's
and
just a
I always
stellar.
remember
He's a
from that
stellar
film.
actor.
Yeah.
He's a stellar actor that's underused in this film, but he's much more used than Antonio Banderas. But we'll get to that a little bit later. And so what happens when Kreischmann catches him?
So Kreischmann catches him, and they, dude, it's gonna be really hard for me to remember a lot of this shit because there was so much happened. This intro was way too long. But anyway, they try to capture him. They actually try to hang Indy because Mads Mikkelsen is there as well. This is where we meet him for the first time. De-aged as Dr. Voller, right? And so they find Indy and they try to hang him. He gets out of that by some weird shit happening, like just a bunch of weird shit where like it's the place is being attacked, right? By like the Allies. So bombs are falling in. He gets saved by a bomb. He's hanging there, de-aged Indiana Jones. I mean,
What'd
if
you
you
think
want
of
to
that
talk about that, I just it looks good in certain moments, but you just can tell, like especially when he's moving around, his whole body's moving.
Yeah.
Like when he's being hung from the ceiling by his neck, and he's just like wiggling around. It looks so like artificial. And then
I think
it's just,
they use that young actor that actually looks like him. I forget the name of that young actor, and they just put all that like hundreds of millions of dollars of effects over his face when they could have just.
Yeah.
I mean, when I just said that I saw Last Crusade, and they used the scene when he was younger, I was like, oh
Yes.
my! I just saw that train scene. I was like, that's a million times better than what we saw in Dial of Destiny, and like they could have just used a younger
it's
actor.
real.
Right, but whatever. Okay, so back to this. So Mads Mikkelsen is trying to get.
He's trying to get this sphere, right? This sphere of, I don't even know what it is, bro. To be honest,
The Dial of Destiny, I think it is.
okay,
He's trying to get.
but he's trying to get the Dial of Destiny, right? But
Right.
there's also this sphere there, right? What was that about? If you remember,
Was it a Lance of Longinus kind of thing, or
the lance,
I wasn't sure.
lance, yeah. Anyway, so Mads Mikkelsen is trying to get this Dial of Destiny. Indy gets out. He breaks free. He gets into a car with Nazis, and he's dressed up as a Nazi. So this is all happening with the de-aged Harrison Ford, and it goes from car chase, and then he gets on a motorcycle, and then he ends up in a train where they capture Toby Jones. Don't forget that Toby Jones is also in this scene.
Right, Toby
He
Jones is another
plays,
great actor.
Another great actor. He plays sort of like Indy's friend, sidekick. He gets captured, so Indy goes on a train that the Nazis have taken, that Mads has taken to I guess to flee. He goes to save Toby Jones, and he goes to get this other thing, and he finds out that there's actually the Dial of Destiny is there. So he finds that instead and takes it, right? And then they go into this entire action sequence. It's a lot of things happen, dude. Like my mind is racing right now because so much happened. Like he dresses up as a Nazi colonel or something, and then he goes into, and he like, they don't know that it's Indiana Jones, and he's like, they're playing along. It's dude.
Not
I'm
once
telling you
as
right
I
now.
watched this, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
as I watched this, not once did I believe we were on a moving train. Not once did we
Never.
were. I thought we were in Europe. Everything looked so clean and slick. And the thing is, I'm sure the Indiana Jones movies when they came out on their days, they looked clean and slick and looked fine. But there's just a thing about this constant feeling that I get from Crystal Skull on
Mm-hmm.
is these films do not have scope to them anymore. They don't feel as epic as when I like a movie that I thought that actually took on sort of the duties of that sort of swashbuckling adventure was The Mummy, like that
Mm-hmm.
type of film,
Right. Right.
And I love that movie. I love the sequel to it. Part three I never bothered because I knew time had changed by the time The Mummy 3 came out when he was fighting sort of Chinese mummies.
Yeah.
That time in cinema is when money went more into special effects and faking you were in an area than actually shooting in an area that at least looked like the area. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
By that
Right.
time, I knew that sweet area of films where it looked epic in scope was no longer to be. Now, epic in scope to people is like Infinity War Part 2 or something,
Right.
Which is
Right.
fine. If you enjoy those movies, that's good. But to me, like, I don't know where I am. We're just in a field in Wakanda. That's all I know is that we're in a green screen
Right.
room.
But
And
here's the thing, real
Transformers-
quick. Here's
Go
the
ahead.
thing. Like Last Crusade has a train sequence as well. Compare the train sequence of Last Crusade to
Of
this
course,
one.
yes. Of
First of all,
course,
it's
that's
done for
immediate.
real. Now, one is in the day and one is at night. I get it, but one is completely done realistically. It's done practically. There's no effects. There's no opticals. Nothing. You're gonna tell me in 2023 they couldn't do the same thing? The issue is that there are scenes, and I know because I saw a lot of behind the scenes photos. They shot a lot of that stuff practically, like him on the motorcycle being chased on, going to the train. Obviously, it was with a stunt double. It wasn't with Harrison Ford because they were wearing these like old face masks, like the stunt guys. But what they do is they add so many layers of like smoke, debris, background, lightning, clouds that it gets so artificial. Like,
Yeah.
don't add that shit. Like, keep it real. You know what I'm saying? And
Of
that's
course,
the
yeah.
issue with these films is that, and they add like dust and just like so much stuff coming at the screen that it just negates any practical shooting. Like, don't even shoot it practically if you're gonna do it like that.
And the
You know what I
digital
mean?
coloring is so like bizarre now. Like it's so vibrant and
coloring.
weird. And they're doing the J.J. Abrams like what is that light source
Lens-
called?
lens flare?
Yeah,
Lens
lens
flare?
flare and stuff. Like when he's in his house, and I'm like, oh, what the hell is this? Like, what am I looking at? And it's to me, it's like, and honestly, talking about this new film, if you've seen the original films, there's no way to go around saying, oh, the old films are much better. That's just gonna be a given. Like,
Right.
I bet you 90% of people who are reviewing Indiana Jones movies, that's what their gripe is, that it's not the same, and there's no sort of
Right.
life in these films. And I'm sorry, but that's what I'm gonna say too. Like, I did not
true.
despise my time watching this film, but certainly after I saw The Last Crusade, after I saw this, I realized we've lost something incredibly monumental just in film in general. And I'm not saying about
Right.
the whole, all of film, because there's a lot of films, different styles, different genres, and different directors that are trying something different. Like I saw Beau is Afraid, and I love that movie because it's so radically different. And you know what I mean? But not every film is going to be obviously to different tastes. And Indiana Jones is sort of a film that a general audience can watch, because nowadays everybody's watching, they're not even watching Transformers movies because that movie went into the toilet too recently. Like, can you imagine a Transformers movie that went into the toilet? Of course, the Transformers movie with a Latino lead gets right in the garbage can. They just didn't care, who you would think. But this one, I was just like, oh, it's too, I don't know if it was just too bright, too colorful, or what. And it's fine because I think with Indiana Jones movies, the originals, there's a hope to them. There's a sense of wonder and adventure that you're watching them, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's artificially put in these films by putting colorful characters instead of making them actually say or do anything.
The thing too is, dude, the original films, like when you're just talking about the lens flares, right? So they have those in the original films, but that was because they were using the type of lenses they were using gave off those flares.
Of course, yeah, right.
It's not a choice that the director said put a flare in here. It was like because the light hit the lens at that time, that's what happened. So
yeah, these
like,
are fake
it's
lens flares, yeah.
Right.
Or,
and I think
or digitally enhanced.
They try to use the same lenses, but here's the thing: is like those films, they're of their time and they're shot a certain way. So you either have to try to do it exactly that way. Like what they should have done is, if they wanted to get the feeling of the original films, shoot on film, get the same lenses, get the same camera. You know what M. Night Shyamalan did on his last film, Knock at the Door, whatever that.
What did he do?
Knock
at the cabin, right?
Knock at the Cabin. I'm sorry. He used film cameras, film lenses from the 1990s to get a very specific look. And
I see.
It actually worked because I watched the movie. I said, "Yo, this looks amazing. It looks like 1990s film."
So it's the wrong director using the right camera.
Yeah, exactly. So they should have done that. Like you either you do it all the way, or you just do it a completely new way. Just take Indiana Jones into 2023, and just shoot it how you would shoot Mission Impossible or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Don't do both because once you're mixing, then you're just gonna get so much shit on screen that it's just gonna be a mess.
Yeah, it looks like a mix of weird stuff, especially like the ticker tape parades. Because like when I watched the Nazi rally in Last Crusade, and I'm sorry to keep comparing it because I just saw Last Crusade, literally finished it earlier this morning. So that's my counterpoint to watching this. When you see that giant like ticker tape parade for Hitler or whatever kind of, I guess they didn't have ticker tape used for him.
It was
but
a book burning. It was a
book burning. It was a book burning event. Actually, yeah, that's good. Yeah. And even small stuff like that when Elsa, like the sort of the dubious nature of that character, the Nazi, collaborator that falls in love with Indy, and you can see her feel bad about things. You see her feel bad about things in the movie. And in this one with Helena, who's played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who's actually a very good actor, and I did not dislike this character. I mean, I disliked some stuff that she did. Like I couldn't read into her either because she had daddy issues too. But it's like when I saw Last Crusade and they played off Indiana's like daddy issues much better in that film. Although he was obviously interacting with his father and her father, who's long passed from that. And so Helena's character, how would you describe Helena's character in this movie?
I would describe her as shit. It's just she's what her character's trying to be is she's trying to be sort of like juxtaposed to Indiana Jones. She's trying to be a character that's more maybe in a way kind of like what he used to be when he was younger, like how he used to like hawk like the antiquities that he used to find like in Temple of Doom when he's selling it to the Chinese guys, the Chinese mafia guys. Right. Like I felt like that's what they were trying to do with her, but and they were trying to like juxtapose them, but in a way, but she didn't come off that she should have been more like slimy and if they wanted to go that way, that's what they should have gone full speed ahead. But I felt like they were trying to do both. They were trying to get a middle ground. Like her character, I never felt like she was really upset at Indiana Jones because she was supposed to be for some reason. I totally forgot why. She was supposed to be upset with him, right?
I think
but
so.
I don't know why. Sure. Because she left. He took the dial from her father and left them to die.
I guess I made him go crazy. That might be the case, yeah.
But I never got that even from the flashback that they do show, and then she was supposed to be like this like wild card where she was like she's in it for the money. She just wants to sell the Dial of Destiny. But then it only happens in that one scene when she's like at the auction. Right. But other than that, she's really not there for anything. To be honest with you. She's really there just to be like, yeah, go ahead.
And Phoebe Waller-Bridge is a very good actor. And she actually is a talented writer because she wrote the first season of Killing Eve. I saw the first season of that, and then she left the show, and apparently the second season was like complete garbage. And I was like, well, I'm not going to watch that. Like, I know nowadays, when you watch a show, and then when you hear it gets really bad, I just don't watch it. Like, I try to give it a chance, but if it's bad, I don't want to waste my time on crap anymore because I've seen plenty of it. and she also wrote the screenplay for No Time to Die, which I actually thought was a pretty good send off for that series of films.
Absolutely.
And she
A
wrote
little too long, but it was
yeah,
good.
yeah, of course. I was just shocked at how good Anna de Armas was in that movie. Like the
She
fact
was.
that, because I was like surprised. I was like, what movie is Anna de Armas in? Because this doesn't feel like it felt like a fun James Bond movie from like the '70s or the '80s. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
she also wrote Fleabag, which is a series I believe on I don't know if it's Prime or Apple TV, but apparently it's an incredible series. So she does great, but of
Yeah.
course the only problem is it brings on the discourse of guys thinking, "Oh, she's going to become the new Indiana Jones," and I have no doubt that might have been the case at some point with Kathleen Kennedy. Kathleen Kennedy, for some reason, has like, I mean, she's become enemy number one due to like Star Wars fans because of what
Yeah.
what took place from after the first Star Wars
Force
reboot
Awakens.
film.
Force
Right.
Awakens,
So yeah. So people were just like upset. They think that she has some sort of leaning towards making just women all the protagonists in the films. Like I don't see that myself, because if that was the case, then it would have just been a woman instead of Harrison Ford in this movie. But I think all these people are
Yeah.
having a difficult time bringing legacy films without sort of warping them to
Yeah.
voices on the internet that don't exist. I mean, that exist but don't exist outside of that scope. Do you know what I mean? Like
Right.
it happened a lot with Ghostbusters, the female Ghostbusters, that people were
Yeah.
crying about that movie too. And to me, I just didn't watch it because I didn't think it was funny. Like I saw like first 10 minutes of it, and I was like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And then also like it happened like with the Flash recently. You have a Michael Keaton as Batman, and that movie went into the toilet. You know what I mean? But I wasn't gonna watch it because I was like, the movie just looks like a mess. You know what I mean? And I wasn't particularly like, crazy about any of these films anyway. And that fact is, I think, alters that there will not be a Batman Beyond movie, which was, I don't know if you've ever seen Batman
Right.
Beyond, but it was like a Bruce Timm. I don't know if it was Bruce Timm, but it was produced after Batman the Animated Series, which was like Batman in the
Yeah.
future. And I'm
Right.
pissed that now like Michael Keaton won't be in that film. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Because it bombed.
yeah, and now Indiana Jones, this movie, it just recently lost second place to The Red Door of the Conjuring, whatever that new Conjuring
Jesus
film.
Christ.
It was-
It's Insidious. Not even Conjuring, bro.
Right, it's right, because those are all the movies the same too. And here's the thing, I always say it on
they're the
this.
same. Yo, bro,
Let's think about this.
how is there still a series of Insidious, bro?
The thing is,
what are you telling?
And apparently Insidious, like, even though there's been like 7 Insidious, is it Insidious? Is that what it's called? Is Insidious movies?
Insidious.
This takes place 15 years after the original, so all those other films have just been prequels. Like I've only seen one of those
God.
movies, which was Annabelle, and it was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I was like, I don't have to watch these movies, like I have to watch because my friend will say, "Oh, let's watch this," because we're doing a horror podcast. And I was like, "Do you really want me to watch that? Like, do I have to really watch that film?" And we swore them off because the sort of Blumhouse horror films, and I'll get back to Indy in a second, but the Blumhouse horror films, which I'm glad that they keep horror relevant, but those aren't for me. Like those feel like, all of them feel like they're just trying to make Poltergeist over and over.
Right.
And even when they did do a remake of Poltergeist, it was not like Poltergeist. So they're basically doing the cheap scares and jump scares. And I have no problem with jump scares, but those are not for me. And for the fact that beat an Indiana Jones movie, it's
crazy.
two things.
It's
either
because the first Insidious was James Wan, right? That was he directed the first one. That was the one that I actually kind of liked.
Same.
I remember it was like kind of creepy, but then after that, I mean, but the fact that it beat Indiana Jones is just fucking crazy. Like Indiana Jones should be like the top film for like 3 weeks in a row.
At least,
Something
at
like
least for the original fans, but they smell something. Either all the original old Indiana Jones fans are just dead or something. Maybe it might be the case.
I don't know, man.
But it's just, and that's not a funny thing, but it's just like they just did not show up for this one because I guess Crystal Skull upset them so poorly.
Yeah.
And that, because even like the last was it the last Skywalker or the third of the new Star Wars trilogy, like even though people hated Last Jedi or Rise of the Skywalker, Rise of Skywalker I think still made like near $1 billion.
It still made money. Made money. It was shit. It was shit, but it still made money.
Yeah, I know. Believe me, when I watched that, I couldn't believe this.
I said,
it was
what?
It was.
I said they took it. They destroyed this film, bro.
Yeah, they really
destroyed
did.
it.
It really is. J.J. Abrams. That's why you don't see any other movies from him recently, because he like
Good.
I
Should
can't
go into
imagine.
hiding, bro.
He
This
did. He
is
probably did. So that is what's happening with nowadays with these Indiana Jones film is a legacy film. For the
right.
fact that you look online and everybody's saying, "Oh, you can spend $35 at Applebee's and you'll get a free Indiana Jones tickets." That's what's happening at this moment. I actually saw a commercial for that. And then, like
Dang.
we said earlier at the beginning of this, you see a Twitter video of Harrison Ford saying, "I love playing Indy for you," and he looks like he drank from the wrong fucking cup at the end of Last Crusade. And so we're like watching into this film, and
Yeah.
it's all that discourse about I hate this character because it's a woman. Because obviously the world has gone like at least United States politics and people being online saying horrible shit. And I don't know, I don't really know how much from the internet drags out into reality, because I'm sure there's people that are like, I look at stuff and like I don't let stuff on the internet change my judgment about a film looks how it looks
Absolutely.
coming out. I'll see the trailer and I'm like, oh, this looks like crap. That's
Right.
how I make my judgment. I don't watch a movie and be like, oh, this has this and that, and it's this certain political ideology, so it's going to be a screwball like piece of crap. I don't let that
Yeah,
bother
yeah,
me
yeah.
in one
Absolutely
way.
not.
I don't know how many people it
Absolutely.
does affect, because there are a lot of people online, obviously, but
Yeah.
I wonder if that really, factored into this film, that there was a lethargy
To be
towards it.
honest, to be honest, I don't think that really factors too much into like
That, yeah,
box
right,
office. I think that's still kind of a fringe thing. I think people, the majority of the general public, who probably don't even pay attention to that shit,
of course not,
is the
yeah,
general public, and they will go see a film based on a trailer or based on a maybe just on like a mainstream review or like word of mouth. They'll go see a movie. And the thing with this movie is, and I feel the same way with Kathleen Kennedy as you do. Like, I don't feel like she has this agenda or she's like doing this woke stuff. I don't see it that way at all. What
yeah,
I do see is that sometimes I feel like it's not just her, but I mean, like, they just have bad ideas. And I feel like there's just too much meddling. Like they're
oh
trying to
yeah,
control the way things are, and they're not letting the filmmaker just make the film or the screenwriter write the
yeah,
script that just needs to be written. Like, this one point that I just want to make real quick, based on the original film, Raiders of the Lost Ark, is like if you just compare that film to what Dial of Destiny probably was, and like production of it, like the pre-production and everything, like the first film was an idea by one guy, George Lucas, right? And then he took it to Steven Spielberg and he said, "Hey, man, I have this idea for this film. Let's make this movie." They agree. They hire a screenwriter, Lawrence Kasdan, and they're like, "Hey, man, let's go into a room, the three of us. Let's make the treatment of the
throwback,
film
yeah,
like what it's gonna be from beginning to end." They sat in a room for like 4 days, and once they had the breakdown of what the movie is gonna be, they let Lawrence Kasdan just write it.
right.
And then he obviously there's going to be revisions on it and like
There was no
notes,
focus
but
testing. There was no let's see
no,
what
they
the
just
internet
let him
thinks
write
and all
it.
that.
They polished it up a bit, and then that's the script that Spielberg went to shoot. And then while Spielberg's shooting it, I'm pretty goddamn sure that he came up with more ideas based on that script. So if your jumping off point is a great script, you're gonna have great ideas. And I feel like that's not what it is now. Now it's just like there's like 5 screenwriters in this on this movie, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then on top of that, then you have Kathleen Kennedy saying shit, then you have like all the other producers, and then you have Spielberg saying shit, and like that's the big problem. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think it's a lot of now. I think when people are fooled by the internet because of buzz and like people getting quote
Yeah.
unquote canceled or whatever, they think somebody's losing work because of that, and I do believe
Right.
that does happen sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't affect people at all. So I think they believe this. They believe what they see in the internet because they're so on it that they start putting that into the films. They start pointing, okay, we got to put this in. This has to do this.
Right.
We
Right.
can't have that. And I do believe nowadays that producers are fooled by this. They're fooled by certain things that they're scared to put something in or scared to take it out.
Yeah.
And I think, going back into the film itself, when you see, like, they have characters that could have been better in the film, and there was like Shawnette Renee Wilson. She plays Mason, who was like helping.
Yes.
And I thought, I was like, oh, like this like character actually felt alive in the movie. I don't know where she
Yeah.
was, like the African American woman with the fro, and she's like, and she was like there helping like unwillingly. I don't know if it was unwilling, but she was just sort of like not cool with the crap that Boyd Holbrook, who's an actually good actor,
was a henchman in this fucking movie. I'm sitting there like, this guy's a henchman. I'm like, what is going on, bro? I mean, I know he was in Logan, so maybe he's like he did a favor for James Mangold, but I'm like, bro,
You feel like there was a
part?
you feel like there was a monologue that he had that they cut out that James Michael took.
They had to. They had to, because he didn't say shit. He just pointed his gun and shot and chased Indy. I'm like, this guy, I don't know what's up with him. But anyway, maybe it's not his fault. But
there, and then there's another guy, Hawk, played by Oliver Richards, who's like, I swear, the guy looked 9 feet tall in the movie, and like, I understand why he's there. Boyd Holbrook is sort of supposed to be like a I don't know, a secondary
number two
villain.
guy. He's supposed to be like a number two, yeah.
Right, but there's nothing to him. So the reason why I'm bringing up Mason is because she gets taken out early on into the film, and I was like, oh man, if only she had survived it, she could have been like, the counterpoint to Phoebe Waller-Bridge. But we're not given that opportunity because she's killed.
She could have helped them out along the way.
Right.
Maybe she could have changed sides and be like, oh, these guys are really up to they're fucking evil. Let me help them and let me travel along or road travel with Indy and maybe like pop up and help them out and whatever. It could have been that, but it wasn't.
Did you enjoy the horse chase scene in the ticker tape parade? Any of it?
To be honest, the horse chase scene was probably the best sequence of the whole movie, and it's crazy. It looked better than I expected because when I saw it in the trailer, it looked shoddy. The trailer looked shoddy, but when I watched it in the theater, I was like, oh, this looks. They definitely refined this. That was a working in whatever.
Yeah, when you saw the trailer originally before, his face is basically warping off of his own head.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was like, oh.
And it didn't happen in this. It didn't happen.
It looked better in this.
Even like the wide shots, there was a lot of detail, and you were like, oh shit. So that was like probably to me the best chase. And when he went down to the subway, that was the best part to me of the action in the movie.
Yeah. So I mean, that was a fun sequence. I actually thought the tuk-tuk is that what that little car is called, the tuk-tuk driving thing? I thought that scene was. I think that was my favorite part of the movie. But we do get to meet Salah again, and it was so funny because I didn't realize Salah was a big part of Last Crusade. So seeing him in here, he's sort of Jonathan Rhys Davies. Like, Salah now looks like something that Gimli would have fought in the Lord of the Rings movie. Salah shows up, he has grandchildren. I swear to you, at the end of this film, because people were like, I bet you they were like, shit, we got to find a way to, like, green screen Ke Huy Quan into this movie in some fashion, but they couldn't anyway. But to not have Short Round and, like, I don't know, whatever. Because this is supposed to be a big send-off for Indiana Jones, and it just feels sort of like another episode.
I never felt that way.
And you were right about the Last Crusade when they ride off into the sunset. I was like, wow, I got emotional watching that. Like, and I really got emotional during Indiana Jones films. I got the emotion of like, wow, excitement. But I was like, wow, like, I'm glad I watched it out of order because I saw good Indiana Jones for the final movie. Do you know what I mean? And so we're following Indian, and it feels like a mismatch, and like nothing feels like organic at all in this movie. Like when he goes to the other country, I forgot what the other country is, and we meet Phoebe Waller-Bridge's like her Short Round is this young actor, and I didn't have a problem with him. I didn't find him annoying, or he's a little bastard, but Teddy, and I didn't have any problem with him. I thought he was fine. That's the problem. Like I didn't overly like or hate anybody in this film, and I think that's a really bad sign of a movie.
I just think they were wasted in their roles.
Everybody in this film existed to move on to the next scene. There was no like pathos. There was no real reason to do anything. Like you were complaining, you were telling me that when you found out Matt Mikkelsen's reasoning, you were like, "What?" Like towards the end of the movie.
No, dude. How do you leave that until the end of the movie, bro?
Yeah,
because it's crazy. It's crazy. The movie felt like it was an introduction, or it was the first act was the entire movie, and then they squeezed in the second and third act of like the last 10 minutes, and I'm like, bro, if we knew what he was planning to do from the beginning, there would have been so much more like weight to the story,
absolutely,
and stakes. It's insane, and just another point. Teddy, his only purpose was to fly that plane at the end, which I guess we'll go into, because they show that scene when his introduction scene is he's being taught to fly a plane. Like, I don't know how that happens, like at a little restaurant bar thing.
Right.
Remember
he's talking to another. He's at a bar talking to a pilot. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, And
So I guess
that's
that's
the
a
only reason his character's there, I
and
guess.
and I had already forgotten that scene happened when he actually flew the plane at the end. I was like going, what? Why is he flying the plane? Because I forgot. That's because
Yeah, yeah.
how pointless and
Because
useless all this
because
was.
so much happens. First of all, the action sequences go way too. There's too many
Yeah,
action sequences in this
yeah.
movie, and they go way too long. That whole cart chase that you like. I mean, I liked it to a point, but then there's one point where I'm like, I literally stepped out of the movie, and I'm like, I looked at my legs in the movie, and I'm like,
Oh my God.
I don't hate this scene, but this shit is going on way too
I get
long.
what you're saying, yeah. Because
Yeah.
obviously my favorite part of the film is actually the finale, the last 10 minutes with them flying over. Oh God, it was not Macedonia. Well, they're
Rome?
flying over
Was it
this
Rome?
guy's land, whatever the hell it was at the end, when they went back through
Oh, I don't
time.
know what the land is. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
Oh, Syracuse. Syracuse.
okay, Syracuse.
It was
It was
called
not
Syracuse.
Syracuse,
Yeah.
New York, like the joke in the movie. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought that like that obviously that part was my favorite part of the movie. I knew there was going to be some time travel in this movie because that was the only logical sort of area that Indiana Jones has not gone into yet.
Right.
And also I had saw some set reports with like Legion. What are they called? Legionnaires.
Legionnaire. Legionnaire. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, those French guys? No, whatever.
I don't know.
That kind of Roman soldiers or whatever the hell. And I
Right.
saw a picture. I was like, either that's like a beginning of the movie, where they show a history of a device or
Dial
something,
Destiny. Yeah.
or they're gonna fly through time at the end, or through the middle of it or whatever. And I thought that was so great, but all of it felt like a wasted opportunity, and especially in the
Just
middle part
keep-
with the boat. Like the underwater sequence, and people were saying, "Oh, we've never seen an underwater sequence in an Indiana Jones movie," and it's true. And it felt like there was nothing that happened here either. The
Nothing
worst thing they
happened.
said is like,
Nothing
"Oh, you
happened.
got 2 minutes underwater," and even that wasn't a factor. You know what I mean? It was like
No.
there was not even a tension scene. He was stuck underwater with eels, so they were like the stand-in for snakes in this movie. And like, and then Antonio Banderas, can you talk about the weight of his character in this movie, Deckard?
There's no weight of his character. I mean, he literally comes in. We see him. He says Indy, and then he doesn't speak for like the next 3 scenes. We see him there though.
Uh-huh.
He's there, and then he's hanging around, and then he helps Indy scuba dive,
Uh-huh.
and then when they resurface, the Nazis have caught up to them, Boyd Holbrook and Mads Mikkelsen, and then he literally gets shot and killed
Multiple times,
by
yeah.
Mads. Does he get shot by Mads Mikkelsen, or does he get shot by? I forgot who he gets shot.
Does it
by.
really matter, honestly?
No, but he gets shot, and that's the end of his character, and he really did absolutely nothing. In
I
the
tell you
film.
this: when I saw him die in the movie, I
it's
literally,
just-
I thought, I was
Yeah.
like, could it be he was in Crystal Skull and I forgot that he was in the movie, so that's why they killed him and it was supposed to mean something in this?
That's
'Cause-
the person that I went to the theater with said the same thing. They were like, "Has he been in the other films?" And I was like, "No."
Because I was like, he must have been in Crystal Skull for me to supposed to care about his character, who literally had like 10 or 5 lines in the movie, but nothing. The boat scene didn't even necessarily need to happen in the movie. It was just
It
they're
didn't.
you're supposed to have not the MacGuffin, but the scene where with the dynamite, and that's supposed to be like that Hitchcock. Oh, if you got if you have a gun in the room, it's supposed to get shot. That's a Chekhov gun
guess.
actually, but this is supposed to be if you know a bomb's under the table, it's supposed to blow up. But it doesn't mean anything. It's bullshit. It doesn't matter. I even forgot like halfway what was going on. So that was nothing.
Yeah, me
That was
too.
a big
Me
nothing
too.
scene for me. Mads Mikkelsen, wasted, who's a great actor. If you've ever seen the show Hannibal, you can see how great he is. If you've seen the Pusher trilogy, he's in the first 2 of those movies. Fantastic movies by Refn. Refn has gotten up his own ass, but I appreciate what he's making now, his weirdo art stuff. But
Yeah.
do yourself a favor and watch the Pusher trilogy, because Mads Mikkelsen is not under. Mads Mikkelsen, they were interviewing him. He says, "Listen, I know what these movies are. I make these movies so I can make the movies that I want to do when he goes back home in the other country and
Right.
stuff like that." So you can
Right.
see he's taking the money. He was in Fantastic Beasts. I can tell you he doesn't give a rat's ass about being Fantastic Beasts. He made $5 million from there, I'm sure. Now you go back and make a good movie. So that's what happens with these films, that they're selling us product that is like empty calories. That's what all these new movies are, and
Yeah.
like I had spoken to you before, when there was a scene where Indy's kidnapped, right? In I don't know if it was Rome, and he's taken away, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character's watching him, and I looked over her shoulder into the background, right, like into the sky, and I was like, this is all
Yeah.
digital. It's all nonsense. It's bogus. Like there's nothing here.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
and that's when I thought about wide shots, and every shot in this film was like so condensed and clean, and it didn't feel real. And I was just like, I felt like a complaining bitch about this movie as I watched it. And the problem is, I didn't hate it, but I felt like there was a great cavernous emptiness to this movie, and it sucks that like Harrison Ford likes this character, and I don't blame him, because watching all the other films, it's an adventure character that loves it, and they made him a miserable prick in this one. He likes,
but you know what? He was actually really good in the film. I will say
he's great in the movie. Yeah,
he was the best part of the movie.
Like he cared
which
about it.
It should have been. It should have been. Yeah, I felt like he was playing Indiana Jones. He wasn't playing Harrison Ford.
Right. Obviously, the only thing that's taken away is his age and fragility. That's the only thing that's really that's the thing that's affecting him. Because I'm sure if he was 30 years younger, he'd be kicking more ass in this film. But at least that he cared about this. People complaining, they just made it more of a Harrison Ford character. But he was Indy in the movie. I didn't feel he was Harrison Ford in the movie, like you said.
Right.
He didn't like Han Solo. That's why he told him to kill Han Solo in the movie. Do you know what I mean?
And that Force Awakens was another where I felt it was Han Solo in the film.
Right.
And I think that was a great request of him to kill him, because I was like, if he would have gone on for more movies, it would have got to, because it happened in Rise of Skywalker. He comes back in like a fucking vision or whatever, and it's like horrible. But I'm like, damn, those two movies, he played those characters again. And even
what about Deckard in Blade Runner?
It's
that
like
was a little
halfway there. It's halfway there, because it's like his character in the first one. It was like there was nothing to him really, because that film isn't about characterization. That film is about like the mood and tone and visuals. Even though there is a great story in there, like with Rutger Hauer's character, like his character is very like. He downplays that character, and so when he was trying to bring some more like a little bit of emotion to it, it didn't feel like the original Deckard. It felt like it was like Harrison Ford just being old a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that the movie is. That's probably the only legacy sequel that like in the last 20 years it is actually like as good or maybe even better than the original. But
I'm one of the rare people that believe that the sequel Blade Runner was better than the original film. Personally,
I don't think it's better because I feel like
it owes a lot to it, right?
Of
course.
When I watch that movie, I'm transported into that time.
Of course, yeah.
And this is a film that is made in 1982 with practical effects and miniatures, and there's no CGI in this movie.
I meant story-wise.
I feel the world.
Story-wise,
story-wise too.
Yeah.
Even the reason I like the first one a little bit better is because it's the second one is just there's a lot more thrown in there, and I feel like it just, I don't know, it takes away a little bit from like the tone of it, what it should be. I feel like that first one, it was just so like in the background, but then when you started to realize exactly what he was going for, that he wanted, and then he's not the villain, that he just wants more life, I feel like it's a better, I don't know, it's
I think to explain it more is that I'm more of a mystery guy. Like I like an unfolding of a mystery, and the first one is not really a mystery. What's happening. You know who the villain is and why. You don't know why he's doing it, obviously, but I think that's just my difference.
I agree too.
Yeah, I think that's just my difference.
Because I feel like story-wise, probably 2049 has more going for it, because it's like there's this uprising that happened, and then Ryan Gosling thinks he's Deckard's son, and then he's not, and that changes his entire character.
And obviously, it's helped because of the bedrock that the original has laid for the movie. So
it definitely there's more story to 2049. Absolutely, there is way more story, and it's more about that, focused on that. So I don't disagree.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So with this, I think I guess the mystery is trying to figure out what the hell Archimedes made. But do you feel Indiana Jones had a direct point in the MacGuffin, as opposed to Raiders, where everything would have happened like it would have happened anyway? Temple of Doom, I'm trying to remember what he did differently. I guess he had a hand in killing the main bad guy in that one, right?
He did.
The
thing about Temple of Doom is like, what people don't know is that like Molaram, there's like, he goes in to get the stone. He goes in to get the stones because the village is like the stones being taken away
And the children being
destroys the
kidnapped and
village.
stuff, right?
And then the children are being on top of that. So that's why he goes in there. But then there's also a world threat because Molaram wants the stones to take over the world.
Right.
Like that's revealed in the middle of the film. So there's like the stakes get like amped up there a bit. So that's and then when Indy, so that's, I feel like there's definitely more stakes in that film as well.
And in Last Crusade, they needed the books, so I think he did have some sort of effect with that. I think Raiders, honestly, was the only one where he didn't have a direct connection with everything going on. I think he did a
Yeah.
little bit more because he was sort of obviously Mad's character would have screwed himself over if he didn't have the sort of hints that Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character and I know I'm like I should say the Phoebe's character's name, but it doesn't really matter, honestly. You know the characters, and Indy kind of indirectly telling them where to go and where not to go. So they end up in. Let's just get into now the finale of the movies before we get done with this episode. So let's talk about those last 10 minutes of this film. What did you feel as Indiana Jones? You know, you get shot in the shoulder, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge is coming up through the wheels of the undercarriage of the ship, of the plane.
I mean, all of that I was fine with. It looked too CGI again when she's like on the motorcycle. There's just too much shit happening. There's too many particles. There's too much smoke, wind, rain, whatever the case may be. But the only part that I started to be like, oh, this is actually kind of cool is when they started to put on. Indy's already shot at this point, although he goes the rest of the movie without any pain from that gunshot. But anyway,
of course, yeah.
When Mads and other guys and Boyd, because I didn't even think Boyd was a Nazi at that. I didn't know necessarily if he was a Nazi, but they start putting on like the Nazi gear.
Yeah, I thought they were just sort of corrupt, you know.
Or he
CIA
just
guys or whatever.
Exactly, but I guess they're Nazis too, and they go in and Mads starts explaining what his major plan is, and that's to go back to 1940. Is it 1945? I forgot when the war was over, 1945 or something. And kill Hitler, go back to the beginning when the war was going to start, right when Hitler was going to take power, kill him, and then take over, you know, the Third Reich
operations
and be the leader, because he felt like Hitler made a lot of mistakes, and so when he said that, I was like, oh, that's actually a really good villain plan,
bad guy kind of thing, right?
Yeah, because he's not like, he doesn't want to go there and just be with Hitler. He wants to actually overtake him. He wants to be worse than Hitler, which is like, oh my God, if we knew that going in, or like earlier in the film, then it
gives way to a villain,
way more sinister than what he was. So when they started putting on the gear, I was like, oh, this is cool. Are we gonna go back to 1940 whatever when the war started? And I was happy. And once we started seeing the fissure in the sky, I was like, oh, this is gonna be cool. Now this is gonna be cool. And then I could have either had them go to before, when Hitler was going to take power, or what it ended up being when they went to ancient Rome and whatever, 400 BC. Those two things I was fine with, and I could have done with both of them. You know what I mean? And one of them actually did happen, so I was cool with that. I was cool with everything up until like they crashed. When they crashed, and then Indy got out. And they meet up with what's the guy's name again? Fuck, I just forgot his name again. Anyway, the guy who originally made Dial of Destiny. They actually meet up with Archimedes. And I think up to that point I was like, then it starts to get a little bit like, shifty. And I was like, all right, well, I don't know about this, but
right.
And I did want him. You know what? Part of me did want him to stay.
Oh, same.
I was like,
same.
I was like, that would have been a great send off. That would have been a way to just like really end.
Because he said, I've been studying this my whole life,
Right.
So, and I was like, oh, that's great.
And it would have been cool maybe if she goes back to the if she went back into the right time, that maybe he's in the history books in some other way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. And like there'd be some sort of tablet with Indiana Jones on it,
right? Like
and a drawing of him or something like that. Because even before we, that part when they're going through Archimedes' like cave and they're searching, and that even felt like sort of a lukewarm, watered down version of every other sort of, like if you watch the first 10 minutes of Raiders of the Lost Ark when he's going into that cave, like they fit in so much within such a short time that anything from there it's just like, who cares? Like, even the Last Crusade, when they're going through the invisible bridge, which is actually just the way that the bridge is lined up.
Right.
Like, that stuff is great. And this, they're just sort of going into one room into the next, and it looks like a YouTube video. So when they're actually flying through the air and they're flying through time, like, I was like, oh wow, this is great. But I know the time was coming short for this movie. Like, that was obviously clearly the last 15 minutes of the movie.
You're like, this movie
we had seen so much.
This movie has to end soon, so it's like there's not gonna be much to this. You know what I mean? So
and I was getting a little sad that, like, oh, Indy's gonna stay back in time, and he's gonna be happy, maybe living, in another world, and then Phoebe just knocks him out and takes him back to their time in the late 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like super underwhelmed by it. Like, Mads Mikkelsen just dies because his plane crashes. Like, he's done. So Archimedes takes his watch.
He didn't even get a cool death.
No, he didn't. He just died, like, off screen.
Yeah.
And then you see his corpse.
You just see his body.
And so he's back now in the late 60s, and it was just like they bring Marion in, which is weird because Marion, I think the actress is younger than him. And because they gave her white hair, she looked older than him. And I was like, and at the premiere, she looked still younger than him. So I don't, whatever. That was like first time I see makeup age a woman for some reason.
I don't know why.
And so we're led to this sort of like, pithy. They bring her in, Phoebe Waller-Bridge and her little boy Teddy walk out of the room in Sala with his two kids. Like, you're supposed to give a crap about his two grandchildren or something, like, for whatever reason. Yeah. And then you see Marion come in, and they're just sort of like this old doddering couple. And I was like, for me, that made it more sad for me for some reason. Like, because they're just gonna sit there and be sad about Mutt. Do you know what I mean? Like, Mutt didn't have to die. Mutt could have been alive somewhere else. It's because they made the choices in here to make. They didn't have to make Indy a miserable character anymore. I understand they try to explain why he's not with Marion anymore. I get it. But she could have just been like she was always a firecracker character. Do you know what I mean? Like, she could have been like, I don't have to fucking stay with you and Mutt, you're being a dickhead. But they didn't do that. So this whole miserable ending for me was just like, oh man, this is whack. Like, it's stupid.
Whack. It's stupid.
And then it shows, Phoebe's character walking down the street, and it almost feels like they were going to try to do the thing with Mutt when he picks up the hat, and they cleverly had him Indy take that fucking hat out of his hand.
Yeah. But
they didn't even do that. They just walking off into the city. That's the grand exit for them for a movie that has 40 years of relevancy in cinema.
The last shot of this movie had to be the greatest epic shot of any Indiana Jones film in order to.
And what did we get instead?
And we got the worst, the shittiest pan up, crane up to the fire escape with his hat hanging. And then he just pulls it off. He just pulls it off the whatever, and that's it.
It almost feels like, and that wasn't Harrison Ford, or maybe it was.
Yeah, that wasn't his hand. It was way too fast, bro. But I'm like, dude, this is the last image we got of this movie. This? No, this can't be.
That's it.
I thought there was going to be
years.
more. I thought there was going to be more after that, and I'm like, this is how you end. Who wrote this shit, bro? Seriously, like, this is bad, bro. This is bad.
Like, James Mangold directed it, and he sat in his chair, and he was like, oh, man. He must have felt like P.T. Anderson or something like that. Like, dude. He must have just sat in there and be like, I just made the greatest Indiana Jones film. Like, these people will forget about all the other movies. Oh, my God. And we sound like real haters, but I think we've seen the indie films.
Yeah.
And we've seen this, and it's just like, I mean, give us some credit. Give your audience credit to give them a good. They didn't come to see Indiana Jones movie to see this. Like, I don't think so. They wanted to see adventure, and there's some sort of adventure here, but nothing felt organic. Everything felt like it was stripped off of a. Like, the way I explain things now, like, somebody was talking about Doctor Sleep, right? The movie that was like a sequel to The Shining, and as I watched it, I thought it was fine, right? A lot of people love the movie. They say the director's cut is great. I haven't seen the director's cut. I like the writer-director of that because he made that that Netflix series about the church. It was great Netflix series. I can't think of it. But whenever I see a new movie nowadays that's doing a legacy sequel like Doctor Sleep, like, when I saw that, it felt like just a cruder version of like an NBC 2000s miniseries. Do you know what I mean? And I sort of feel that in this way, but with a giant budget. Like, it feels like a secondary thought of a sequel. Like,
Right.
say, oh, we got a great idea for this movie. We'll just kind of like eschew all the old shit that people liked a lot about it because we can't afford it, or it's too much money, or because of protocols, because of the plague that's happening. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And I feel like that you lose a lot in that. Not saying you have to be 100% one by one comparison to the original films, but at least have some sort of elements about it. Like when you're watching this film and you see the special effect of Phoebe Waller's bridge when she's riding on the motorcycle, her face is almost floating off of her neck. I was like, "What the hell am I looking at here?" Put goggles on a stunt rider. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's all technical. It's all digital technical, or it throws me off of this movie, and it completely smears away. I was like, I made this quote about it that I was like, not a quote, but I made this idea about it that Indiana Jones, like Crystal Skull, was
Mm-hmm.
like if the original trilogy was there and it was beautiful and it's got a little dust on it, so you decide to piss on it a little bit to wipe the dust off of the original trilogy,
Mm-hmm.
and then you still have that piss remnant on it, and then you take feces to wipe the piss off of it with this new movie. That's what you get.
Yeah.
It's like
Absolutely.
you summing up that final shot is exactly how this movie is. It's just like an afterthought. And do you have any
It's
final words
it's
on the Dial of Destiny?
Again, I didn't hate the film. It was
Same.
serviceable at certain points. There was points of it where it was just didn't make sense. There wasn't a point to the film. That's how I'll sum it up. This film didn't have a point. It just had a lot of.
Right.
It tried to be something to stimulate the Indiana Jones fans and to try to recall the feelings of the original trilogy, and that's what it tried to do. And I felt like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was such a thorn on the side of the people making this film because they were trying not to do what happened in that film, but they ended up doing almost the same thing in certain senses, in certain ways. You know what I mean? And it's just not a fitting end. It just was a film that had no point, and it was just so mediocre. That's the thing about this film is it's so mediocre. It's like it's watchable but mediocre. Like you're not getting anything out of this film, and that's why like I did a top 5 list of Indiana Jones. Temple of Doom was number 1, but I put this last, and somebody commented,
yeah.
and they were like, "Wow, Dial of Destiny is after Kingdom of the Crystal Skull," and I'm like, "Yes," because at least that movie had some moments where I was like, first of all, there's some memorable. I remember moments of that film, and there's at least it has Spielberg's hand at like just his action sequences, his chase scenes, even some of the banter between like him and Shia LaBeouf. It's very Indiana Jones. It's like it's kind of it's funny. There's some humor there. Believe me, there's a lot of horrible shit in that movie that I can't even watch, bro. That I just skip. I'm like, this is bad. Like we were talking about like that shot of like the forest, the jungle, and it's like the most CGI shot. I'm like, this is the establishing shot for this. Fuck this movie, bro. Fuck it. And then there's it like it'll have a nice little action scene, and then the next shot will be some CGI mess, and I'm like, fuck this. But then it'll go back to like a little bit of like Indiana Jones coolness. I'm like, oh, this is actually good. And then it jumps back so much like that. But at least it's a little bit interesting. This one was just mediocre, and it's like I'd rather be a mess but have interesting moments than just be like a mediocre slog, which this movie was. Again, it's not badly made. It's just, and then just to go back to the opening, everybody's talking about the opening saying, oh man, this feels like Indiana Jones. Bro, not when you have a fucking digital character as Indiana Jones. I'm sorry. Like, whenever he's running, walking, it looks fucked up. It looks
That's the thing about...
Go ahead. No. The face sometimes did work. It did. But they needed to have him in silhouette through the entire thing and then show him a little bit here and there and here and there. But they were trying to do entire wide shots with seeing his entire body, him turning, him doing like comic relief shit. I'm like, you can't have a CGI character like that unless it's Avatar, unless it's completely CGI in the entire world. But if you're gonna try to make
I thought the CGI face was better when they had the second flashback when he was just talking to Toby Jones.
Absolutely,
like, that felt more realistic.
Because it was like closer to his age now, so it's like they just like de-aged him a little bit. You know what I mean? But this one was just like ridiculous. But it was like, it just took me out of it the entire time. And I'm like, I can't get with this. I can't get with this. Like, there's nobody sitting in this theater that's saying, I'm watching Indiana Jones when he was young. There's no way. I'd rather have another actor play him, like they did.
Yeah, like in
Obviously,
Last Crusade,
yeah,
yeah, when he was young, and then they cut it to him being older,
that's
still
it.
doing an action scene.
Just
So
just get an
they could have
actor
done
that
that, but
looks
they
like
just
him, and then it's been done in movies for 80 years. That's how they used to do it before. They used to just recast younger actors. That's it.
yeah. I can't imagine like people in the audience would be like, "Oh my God, it's not Harrison Ford in the first 10 minutes. I gotta get out of here and run out the theaters," because it's
Yeah.
like they did that with Scorsese. Like I love
Oh,
The Irishman,
yeah, yeah.
but when I read after, I was like, "Wait a
Mhm.
minute, his character is supposed to be 30 years old in this movie." I
There's
tell you
no
this.
way. There's no
He
way.
looked like he climbed out of a grave. I was like, there's no way he's 30 years old in this movie. So when I read that, I was like, get the hell out. And that was, in hindsight, it was fine that I watched the movie without thinking about his age, because they would call him
Yeah.
young man in the movie, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, maybe
Yeah.
that's a joke because he's so old. But in hindsight, when you hear like, oh my God, that was bad special effects, but whatever,
Yeah.
the movie's great. But with this, yeah, they could have just done the other actor, like Fisher. I was
Yeah,
gonna say Fisher
like-
Stevens. That was the wrong actor. I forget his name. Ooh. Fisher
Short
Stevens would have been
Circuit?
completely different. Yeah, he was
Uh,
a more problematic role than that.
Oh
but
my
yeah, I
God.
see what you mean exactly with this. It's
But-
just like,
Yeah,
Go
and
ahead.
just talking about the Irishman, like they just had a problem. Like the issue was with the script because you can't recast De Niro because he be playing a younger version almost the entire film. So he
Uh-huh.
wouldn't even be in the film De Niro that much.
yeah, you're
so
right.
they had to do it that way. But
Yeah, they had
and I
to.
understand it was wonky, but like this filmmaking and the storytelling was so good that it didn't
Right.
really affect it that much. But this is on a
We
different
weren't dealing with
level.
Scorsese level of filmmaking in this movie, even though
No.
Mangold is very capable of making a very good film. It wasn't
Yeah.
in this. And to go one more thing about Crystal Skull, like the thing that I felt I lost the most about that, because the Russian villains were boring about that, even though they made and I like the main villain actress. I forget, in every other movie she's in. She was in Tar. I forget what I
Kate
forgot.
Blanchett.
Kate Blanchett, right? She's great. She's
She was
she's
good.
just an awesome actor. But like when they were escaping the Amazon, like not the Amazons. Yeah, they were Amazons, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
They were tracking them down. Like I was like, that's the movie I wanted to see. But people probably would have said it was racist or some shit like that. But with this, I didn't know what I was expecting to see with this movie, and I certainly didn't get what I was thinking I was going to get with this movie. But you know what? That's what it is. What is your sort of genuine? Like, do you think the Indiana Jones legacy is tarnished with these last two films, like completely, or do you think like it doesn't matter really?
I think this one tarnished the films, which is very strange to say because I know Crystal Skull is a little bit is not a little bit. It's bad in a lot of ways, but
Right.
this one definitely tarnishes it because it just completely, again, Crystal Skull did it too, but if you would have you could have ended it with them riding off into the sunset, and then,
Uh-huh.
the beauty of ending something like that, ending it that way, is that we have, in our minds, we can decide what happened to him. He went on to do
Right.
this, he went on. Even with Crystal Skull, it gave us a little bit of like an open field of like, okay, they got married, they
Right.
went, Mutt did this, maybe he took over Indiana Jones. But now this one, it's like we're seeing
It's a
him
misery.
so old that we're like,
Yeah.
we can't fantasize about where Indy has gone. We know where he's gone, and it's this
We
horrible
picture
ending.
he goes back into the kitchen, he goes to take a shit, and his heart falls out of his ass because he's
Yeah.
so old. So
And
it's
it's
like
At
there's
this
no
point,
more
he's gonna
wonder in these
die
type
soon.
of films.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
Like there's the modernization of the films is that there's no more sort of happy ending. It has to end with a stinger or some sort of song at the end. It's not like when I saw The Rocketeer. Do you know what I mean? Like that's another
Yeah.
sort of period film. Even like a movie that people hate, but I love, is Dick Tracy.
I love that.
I
movie.
love that movie.
It's a
Do you know what
great
I mean?
movie.
Like I love that movie because that's the type of film that you got when you got the Indiana Jones movie. You
Right.
got that escapism, pulp escapism, and
And the first
and
one,
the problem with
sorry, but the first one was done very down and dirty. Even Spielberg
Right.
said, like, when I made this film, he came off 1941, which was his first bomb. So the
Right.
studios were like, weary on him now because they were like, oh, he's not making good movies. So he went in he shot it really fast, down and dirty, gritty. The second one had a little bit more of a budget because the first one was so successful, but he still kind of kept that. The third one is the only one where it goes into like that little more glossy kind of like big
right,
budget
yeah.
feel, and it goes into more characterization with Indiana Jones, but it still had that same thing, and that's the problem. But go ahead.
Yeah, so I think I agree with you that this is a real sort of blight on the
Right.
thing. And the thing is, because the main actor's here, you don't have
Hmm.
Spielberg handing off. Spielberg was just like, I'm tired of making these shit because
Yeah.
my experience with Crystal Skull, there's no way I can outdo that. Apparently,
Right.
he's probably just like totally like, fuck it. Why would I want to make another one of these? I'll go make a remake that people apparently loved but didn't pay money for, which was West Side Story. Because they say that he's pulling off visual elements in that like still are impressing people, and that's like a movie that I am going to see.
I love that movie so
And
much. I love that movie.
yeah, so I mean, like, I think we can sit about and complain, but that's the healthy nature of watching cinema, is watching it progressively get worse, I guess. Not really, but you know what I mean, in the
Right.
top, because the cinema has been completely affected by obviously outside forces such as the internet, which I don't think even necessarily should be the case, and then also like the plague that just happened, you know what I mean, and that killing off movie theaters and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure killing off actors and killing off work in general. So cinema is in a very strange place now, where it's mostly in streaming, and some streaming films are done really great, like The Irishman. Or sometimes you'll watch a movie and be like, "Oh, this shit looks like a mini series for a show. It doesn't feel like a film." And you see the budget goes into this, into that, and it doesn't feel organic to a movie. So we
Right.
only have some outlier directors like Fincher and stuff like that. And we only have really good directors like I would say Denis Villeneuve,
Hmm.
making movies. Although
I mean,
there's a shot in Dune 2 where they're fighting inside of a coliseum, and I was like, "Oh, this looks like one of
you
the
know
worst
what? You know
digital
what's
effects.
crazy?
Hopefully they'll fix
You
that."
know,
Go
I
ahead.
think this is another case of like the effects weren't finished, because in the first teaser,
I think so too. Yeah, I hope
the
so.
shot was a little. I was like, this looks a little weird. But then the new trailer that just came out, it looks 100 times better. So I was like,
Okay,
oh,
good.
they probably fixed it up. And
You're talking about
rendered it
Dune
and all
2
that.
then, right?
Yeah, Dune, the second one.
Okay, good.
When,
Okay,
when,
yeah. So
when it's like the black and white sequence when he's fighting in the arena. That's what you're talking about,
and
right?
another director that I look forward to is obviously like I said Fincher, but Luca Guadagnino.
Okay.
He's a very specific style of directing, but I actually like.
Dude, I loved Bones and All. He did Bones and All,
Yeah,
right?
it's great, right?
Dude,
Wasn't it
I
great?
love that movie. That movie was so
That was a
fucking
great
good.
movie.
And then
Yeah, it
this
was
guy,
a very good movie.
obviously, Timothy Chalamet was amazing. I don't know the girl's name. I forgot her name. But what's
Yeah,
the
I
old
forgot
guy?
him.
The guy that won the Oscar for...
Oh yeah, he gave in such a good
He
role.
was
Can
fucking
you
amazing.
IMD that real
He was
quick?
amazing.
Mark Rylance. Mark Rylance, yeah.
He was amazing. He was so
He was
fucking
excellent in that
creepy.
movie. He's scary. So, and obviously Guadagnino made the remake of Suspiria, and I think it's
Which
better
was
than the
good,
original.
too.
I like the
Which
original,
was
but
good.
it's an incredible film. And now he does HBO series too now. So he's gonna be doing the guy who wrote American Psycho, Brett Snellis, wrote a book called The Charge, which is like a serial killer sort of book. And Guadagnino, because it is up in his alley, because he loves like sort of stories that have sexual, like you don't know what if the character's straight or gay or they're bi, or it's all of them, and that story has that, and I just know the stories. Like I read the book, I heard the audiobook, so it's really good, so I'm glad with that. So we got Guadagnino, we have Fincher, we have
Nolan?
Villeneuve. Do you have any other
Nolan?
directors? Nolan, obviously
Christopher-
Nolan, yeah, with Oppenheimer, and he says Oppenheimer has no digital effects in it, so I got to see what that means.
Bullshit.
I don't know what that means, because when I heard that, I was like, that can't be the case.
They
Did
had
you
to
really build a
erase.
nuclear-
They had to erase some wires, something. Come on. But anyway, but
Yeah,
I
so those
almost
are direct-
believe him. I almost believe him to a certain extent.
Fair enough,
But
So I think that's what's happening with this film. Like I think
and
Mangold,
James Cameron, even though
Obviously,
he makes,
James Cameron,
he
yes,
makes
James
completely
Cameron.
digital films, but it's in a whole other area that it works because that's what the world is. You know what I mean? It's not trying to be reality. He's actually making a new reality. He wants you to go on an
Yes.
alien planet, and he's mixing live action with CGI, and it looks perfect. It doesn't look fucked up. You know what I mean?
There's
So it's
people that say never doubt James Cameron, and he hasn't been wrong yet. His producing thing is a completely different thing.
Oh,
When he's
yeah.
seeing
He
Terminator
doesn't give a
Genesis is
shit.
great,
He doesn't give a shit.
but those are the directors you can trust in film nowadays. If you're a
Scorsese.
director, it's Scorsese. Obviously, the Killers of the Flower Moon looks
Yep.
amazing. The new trailer that just came out. So that's what I'm saying with if leading back to the only director that I would trust with a legacy film is Villeneuve. So that's it. I don't trust this guy anymore. He's dinged his reputation with me.
He's
so
done. He's done. I mean,
Mangold
to be
can't
honest,
talk crap.
Mangold, really, I was looking at this the other day. Like, Ridley Scott has made some amazing films that people don't even they don't even, they always name the same ones: Blade Runner, Alien. But dude, he's made like Matchstick Men, Black Hawk Down. Like, he's made a lot of really great films, and he has probably the best eye that I've ever seen a director. And this is even, I'm even saying over Fincher, because Fincher Fincher has a great eye, but he's very subdued. So is Ridley Scott, but I don't know, something about the way Ridley Scott shoots. And I'm only saying it because Fincher is he was that he looked up to Ridley Scott, so he took something from him. So that's why I'm kind of saying he's the top. But anyway,
Scott still has a good eye for cinema where it looks like a movie.
He does.
Like it actually still looks like a film.
He has a great eye, but
and
his films can be really shit. He can make great films, and he can make shit too, bro.
Yeah, I suggest you listen to an episode of WTF with Mark Maron. He interviews him, and Ridley Scott thinks every one of his movies are the best movies ever made. So it's pretty funny.
Yeah, he has a super big ego, man.
But back to this film, I think I didn't hate that I saw the film, but in the end, I think it's obviously a peg down. It's not a surprise.
It is.
It's not a surprise. I think this was just a good sort of cathartic discussion that you and I had about, about Indiana Jones, and like, I think you coming in have had a bigger history and love of Indiana Jones than I did, but I eventually got into Indiana Jones a lot because I appreciate what the movies are, and clearly after seeing Temple of Doom and stuff like that, like, because I know I have friends of mine that still dress up like Ghostbusters, and I don't think of fandoms in those type of films. I think of like only Star Wars or Star Trek, but these films are important to people. So like Indiana Jones has a giant following with it, and like I can only imagine. I left that board that you were part of before, so I can imagine what they're saying in that. They might
God.
They might be delusional or not.
Dude,
say that for
people that are like, this is the greatest film. Please, I saw it 3 times. I'm like, they're just deluding themselves, bro.
Good for them. Good for them. I guess that's the only way I could say that's their Bible to them. So with that, is there any final words you got to say about this?
My only final word is, it's, to be honest, I left. It's a little bit of a depressing state because, first of all, it destroyed the original trilogy, and then also just for movies in general, like, I don't know where we're gonna go from here because like so many of these movies are bombing. Indiana Jones is bombing. The Flash, movies that were supposed to be huge hits. And I don't know. It's a little bit of a depressing state, but then there's also, we know that there's a lot of great movies coming out too. But as far as this film, I don't know if I'll see it again. I might give it another watch when it's like streaming.
I can guarantee I'll never watch this movie again.
I might.
You're actual. You'll take it for the
I might
team,
watch it again just because I know that I've had changes of heart with a lot of movies that I've hated when I first saw them, and then I watched it again and I was like, you know what, this is not that bad. But I'm not running. I'm not running to it. You know what I mean?
You might love it. You might end up buying all the old.
I'm
sure there's a surplus of Dial of Destiny T-shirts that you'll probably just end up buying because you love it so much.
Never.
But with that, I think that was a good conversation about this film. I think it was a good
Absolutely.
conversation about the legacy and the history of Indiana Jones and the fine works of Kasdan, Spielberg, and Lucas and everybody else involved, Harrison Ford and all the other actors. So that's all we got to say about this. So, Deckard, do you have any? What's your final word, Deckard?
My final word is, I'm too old for this shit.
I concur.